Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I am joined tonight by a bipartisan group of members who have come together to take to the floor tonight to call for members of Congress to be banned from trading stocks. This is a reform that is long overdue. When people elect us to office, they should be able to trust that their members of Congress are acting in the best interest of the country, not the best interest of their own personal finances. And when members of Congress are able to trade off of our position, it damages the integrity of this institution and of our entire democracy. As members of Congress, we have access to all sorts of information that the average member of the public does not. What might be put in a bill or taken out of a bill? What might be put into a budget or taken out of a budget? This is material information, and members of Congress should not have the advantage of that insider information and use that advantage to engage in stock trading. Also, members of Congress should not be conflicted when we have to decide about what to vote for or against. Members of Congress should not be in a position of thinking about what the impact on their stock portfolio may be. We should be making decisions based just on what is best for the American people. The American people recognize that this is a reform that is long overdue. Poll after poll has shown upwards of 90% of the American people supporting a ban of members trading stocks. Now, this is an issue that has been around for a while, but in just the last few weeks, we have achieved significant momentum. In the last 3 weeks, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, President Trump, and today, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, have all come out in favor of this reform. That is real momentum that we should carry forward to the finish line. So the Democratic leader is for it, the Republican leader is for it, the President of the United States is for it. Let's get it done. I'm joined tonight by a number of members who represent, I think, the full ideological diversity of the House of Representatives. Both sides, liberal, conservative, moderate, people who understand that the American people expect better of this body. And so I'm going to yield to some of my partners in this effort, members who have had the courage to stand up and say that we need to enact this reform and ban members of Congress from trading stocks once and for all. I'm going to start by recognizing a member from the Republican side who I've had several great conversations with on this issue. He has introduced a bill that would put a congressional stock trading ban into effect. The gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Burchett. I yield 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking this bull by the horns. Mr. Speaker, as I've heard some of the good old boys say, it is cold in here. Maybe we need to start cutting some hogs. So if you know what that means, you know what that means. Mr. Speaker, I rise to address this body on the issue of stock trading by members of Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, we are public servants and stewards of our community. Why does Congress think we are above the law? For years, members of Congress have gotten rich on the backs of hardworking Americans, when their taxpayer money. Members sit on committees and go to private briefings where they get privileged information from companies informing us on the stock if the stock price will skyrocket or plunge. We appropriate money to get different economic sectors that may benefit our own portfolios. And who gets the short end of the stick? Hardworking, red-blooded Americans. That is why I introduced the End Congressional Stock Trading Act to level the playing field and restore public trust in Congress. Every time I go back to East Tennessee, I get asked by my constituents, Tim, why hasn't Congress done anything to stop this? My answer is simple. Congress says in my notes, Congress doesn't have the stomach, but the reality is we don't have the guts, Mr. Speaker, to sacrifice our own bottom line for the good of the country. I hope I'm surprised, and I hope that Congress takes action, but I doubt we will, seriously. Ladies and gentlemen, we are public servants. We serve the people that we represent. We aren't elected to come up to Washington and get rich. While our constituents at home, oftentimes they struggle to make ends meet. I'm here to serve the least amongst us and try my dadgum hardest to make the lives of East Tennesseans better, Mr. Speaker. I don't sell stocks. I have a mutual fund. I talked to my broker today, Tommy Seiler, and I'm proud to say that I have recovered from any losses, and I'm almost at $11,000 with my mutual fund. Mainly I trade baseball cards and comic books on eBay, and that's currently my portfolio. President Trump said if he passed the bill banning stock trading for members of Congress, he would sign it. Let's see if we have the guts to stand up and do what's right. When I was mayor of Knox County, things would come before me, and I would bring in my attorney, and I would bring my buddy Mike Jones, and I'd bring in my dear friend Colonel Julian, who's since passed, and Mike would tell me if it was legal or if it was illegal. He'd say, well, boss, it's legal. And I'd look at Colonel Julian, and Colonel Julian would tell me if it was ethical or not. Mr. Speaker, this may be ethical. This may be legal, but dadgum, it is surely not ethical. We know what's right. We need to do what's right. And thank you, Mr. Sponsor, and I yield the remainder of my time. It's been a pleasure working with you. You've been straight up, and I dig that. Thank you, brother.
Likewise. Thank you very much. I'd now like to recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Levin, who has been an outspoken champion for this reform for many years. Mike Levin, 3 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, when I first started running for Congress a number of years ago, my wife and I sold all our individual stocks, and I made a commitment that if I were elected, I wouldn't trade individual stocks while in office, because being a representative isn't just a title. It's a responsibility that we all have, and that responsibility is to serve the people and not our own financial interests. Let's face it, too many Americans have lost faith in government. They wonder whether their elected officials are truly working for them. And we can't allow that doubt to grow. We have the power to help fix it. That's why I've long supported legislation to ban members of Congress from trading individual stocks, and I am encouraged that we're working together in a bipartisan way to get this done. I thank Representative Magaziner, Representative Roy, and others who have been working together for some time on this. We've got a lot of momentum. And today, as was said, Speaker Johnson said that he supports a stock trading ban. Leader Jeffries supports a stock trading ban. And President Trump has said he would sign a stock trading ban into the law. Again, this is not a partisan issue. Poll after poll shows overwhelming support. Approximately 80% of Americans want Congress to pass a ban on member stock trading. They want to know that their representatives are here to serve the public, not to profit from their positions. Recent events have only made this more urgent. Last month, markets moved sharply after the reversal of tariffs that had been threatened, and just hours before that announcement, there were posts on social media. I don't need to recount all that now, and we don't know exactly who had advance notice of that decision or whether anybody acted on it, but that is exactly the problem. Americans should never have to wonder if public officials are using any sort of inside knowledge to enrich themselves. That's why we need to act now. We need a law that says clearly and without exception, if you serve in Congress, you cannot trade individual stocks. No more gray areas, no more questions, just clear rules that restore trust and put the public interest first. We have the support, we have the momentum, and we have a responsibility to get this done. So, Speaker Johnson, please work with us. Allow a vote on a stock trading ban. Let's begin the long process to restore confidence in this body. The time to act is now. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you very much. The stock trading bill that I'm leading was originally introduced by Abigail Spanberger, the representative from Virginia, and I know if she's watching, she's smiling to see all of us coming together and to see the progress that has been made in the last few weeks in building support on this issue. I want to give her a lot of credit for getting the ball rolling, along with the next gentleman who I'm going to introduce, who has been a fantastic partner and co-lead on the Trust in Congress Act. I know that we're going to get this done in large part due to his leadership. I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Roy.
I thank the gentleman. Mr. Magaziner has been an excellent partner in this effort, and it's now long overdue. And I'm glad he mentioned my friend Abigail Spanberger. Both of us went to the University of Virginia. It's part of the reasons why we conspired together on this bill when we were talking about how ridiculous it was that on both sides of the aisle, there were blatant abuses of this trust that the American people put in the people that represent them, not to violate that trust by trading securities for profit on the very issues they're supposed to be voting on objectively to benefit the United States of America. Yet that's precisely what has happened. So this is now the fourth Congress in a row that I've introduced the Trust Act, now with Mr. Magaziner, and I think it is now long overdue. In the 119th Congress, we have 12 Republican co-sponsors and 60 Democrat co-sponsors. I would just say to my Republican colleagues, get with the program. 12's not enough. We need to get everybody on board here. I'm glad the Speaker has said that he would support it. I'm glad the President of the United States, President Trump, has said that he would sign it. But we've got to be realistic about what we're talking about. We vote every day on massive issues. We vote about health care policies involving pharmaceutical companies that make billions of dollars, massive insurance companies, massive hospital corporations. We vote on intellectual property issues in the Judiciary Committee. We vote on antitrust issues. We vote on all manners of issues, Defense Department policies that involve hundreds of billions of dollars in the capital markets, and yet members are voting on that while trading stocks on a daily basis. Capital Trades reports that 113 members of Congress made 9,261 trades in 2024 involving 706 million shares or other assets. We had a Democrat who made 4,000 trades for a 20% return. We had a Republican who made almost 2,000 trades for a 23% return. A Democrat, 575 trades, a 22% return. I could keep going down the list. We had members of Congress in 2024, a Republican with 149% return, a Democrat with 142% return, a Democrat with 124% return, a Republican with 111% return, a Democrat with 105% return. I can keep going down. There's a lot of Americans that would like to have returns along those lines. In fact, there are now funds out there that follow and trade along with the congressional members of Congress to see what they're trading. That is ridiculous. You should come to Congress. You should take your assets. You should move them into widely held index funds. We should make it able to be done on a tax basis. Come in here, clean the decks, go represent your constituents. It's long past due. Let's move the bill. Let's get it to the floor. Speaker, bring it to a vote, and let's put trust back in Congress. Thanks, Seth.
Being a great partner on this and a great leader on this issue for many years. I now yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from New York, a great champion for justice, Mr. Nadler.
Mr. Speaker, the American people expect and deserve to know that their elected officials are working for them, not lining their own pockets. When members of Congress trade individual stocks while in office, it fuels distrust, undermines public confidence, and casts a shadow over the work of this institution. Even the perception of impropriety weakens the bond between the government and the governed. Members of Congress have unparalleled access to market-moving information and the ability to shape laws and regulations that can impact entire industries. That power must never be used to enrich ourselves or our families. There is simply no legitimate reason for members of Congress, their spouses, or their dependent children to be trading individual stocks, period. This bipartisan legislation would close that dangerous loophole once and for all. It would require lawmakers to place certain investments in qualified blind trusts, prevent conflicts of interest, and restore accountability where it is so desperately needed. I am proud to co-sponsor the Trust in Congress Act, and I thank Representatives Magaziner and Roy for their leadership on this critical bipartisan legislation. It is a long overdue, common-sense step toward restoring integrity in public service and rebuilding the trust of the American people. I urge my colleagues in both chambers to join us in passing this essential reform, and I yield back.
Thank you. I'd now like to recognize someone who is new to Congress, but I know is passionate about this issue and I believe campaigned on it, the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Bresnahan. 2 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of the effort to ban congressional stock trading because public service must never be compromised by private financial interest. The American people deserve to know that we are acting on their behalf, not for our own portfolios. That's why I've already began placing all of my assets into a blind trust to align my conduct with the principles behind this important reform. I want to thank Representatives Roy and Magaziner for their bipartisan leadership on this issue. Their work demonstrates the kind of accountability and integrity that Congress needs more of. Their efforts are a critical step forward towards rebuilding trust in our institutions, and I look forward to working with them to codify this into law. I yield back.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to recognize a good friend and a leader on the Oversight Committee who I know is committed to strong ethics reform, the gentlewoman from New Mexico, Ms. Stansberry, for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, let me begin with a simple fact. No member of Congress should be trading stocks, period, none. That is why I believe we must ban congressional stock trading and why I am proud to co-sponsor this act here in Congress. The American people deserve to know that their members of Congress are working for them, not for stock portfolios, that their decisions, their policies, and their priorities are in the public interest and not the interest of private property, private profit. Because, let's be real, we've all seen it here, even over the last several weeks, as members of this body have traded stocks while working on policies currently before Congress. Possible insider trading in the midst of the president's trade wars. A president and a speaker who both declared it's a good time to buy while members went out and did it. Oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, big tech, and yes, AI. So let me be clear, not only is it wrong and immoral, it must be made illegal. And we will be investigating anyone who engaged in insider trading. But banning stocks is only one piece of restoring faith in our public institutions, especially in a time when billionaires are buying elections and cabinet positions and setting themselves up for sweetheart deals. So let me also say this. We must get big money out of politics and get it out now. We have to end Citizens United, restore the power of the people, end gerrymandering, strengthen our ethics rules, and restore access to the ballot box. That means passing our For the People Act that was blocked multiple times in this chamber, pass the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act, restore the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and pass the Freedom to Vote Act. This is not a partisan issue. This is an American issue about protecting our democracy, protecting our people, protecting our communities, and protecting our planet. So let's do this. Let's do the right thing. Let's ban stock trading and restore our faith in American democracy. With that, I yield back.
I just want to take a second to thank all of my colleagues on both sides who came out tonight. This is a busy week in Congress. We've got reconciliation markups going on. People's schedules are busy, but the fact that we have so many members from both sides of the aisle who have the courage to stand up and say something that may not be popular with everyone in this chamber, and have also made it enough of a priority to come tonight, is a great credit to each of them, and I want to thank them for their leadership. I now recognize the gentleman from Florida, who I know has also been a champion of this issue for some time now, Mr. Mills, for 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity. You know, I don't need a written speech or a prepared document to say how common sense this is. For far too long, people have basically turned politics into a career, which was never its intent. It was meant to serve we the people. And there is something that is mutually exclusive. You cannot serve yourself in personal enrichment and serve the public at the same time. We know for a fact that even within the National Defense Authorization Act, that you can get language put in, provided to you by companies that allow for certain amounts of money to be sole sourced or in some ways appropriated to defense companies that they can then turn around and invest in. How is that not insider trading when it's public knowledge on what's out there, but not public knowledge on what's being put into the NDAA during the markups? Insider trading must stop, and I can tell you that banning stock trading for members of Congress and their spouse should not be something that is in question. We must rebuild the actual image of Congress. We must rebuild the image of federal government where we are actually here to truly serve the people. I think this is a paramount step in us making sure with friends and colleagues like Representative Magaziner to be able to move forward and rebuild the trust, the hope, and rebuild this institution to be what it once was. Our founding fathers, and many of them were in the private sector and very successful businessmen. They served in an effort to try and get back to their businesses because they actually made more money there. But it's changed where people are making more money while in Congress, while stock trading, than they can in the private sector. The same way that Plan B for failed male athletes shouldn't be women's sports, Plan B for failed entrepreneurs shouldn't be Congress and stock trading. So I support this bill, and I ask everyone to move forward and guaranteeing that we rebuild the confidence in government and we restore what it is to serve we the people. With that, I yield back.
Thank you to the gentleman. I now yield to a man I admire very much, the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Cleaver, a co-sponsor of the Trust in Congress Act, for 2 minutes.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, it's pretty clear to me, while it may not always come across your television, radio, or cell phone, I believe that the overwhelming majority of members of Congress are good and decent people. Whether we agree on everything is not factored in on what I just said. Unfortunately, as polls continue to indicate, the American people don't believe that that's the way it is. Congress right now is about as popular as a soiled baby's diaper, and we are pushing it down further by failing to hold ourselves accountable. It is absolutely ridiculous that members of Congress can sit in a committee hearing room or get some information by just moving around this city and then come in here and vote on something that would enrich them. I mean, this is wrong. And one of the reasons that you're not going to find anybody else coming in here taking an opposite position is because they are ashamed. And if they are ashamed, it means they know they are wrong. And if they know they are wrong, they ought to support this legislation. Or tell the public, I believe in enriching myself, and I'm not going to support it. Now, I represent a place that's sometimes referred to as Chief's Kingdom. I know some of you are probably offended because we win all the time, but in the recent years, we are accustomed to seeing Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones lead one of the greatest teams in history. They've won 3 championships overall, 2 in the last 3 years. They can pass, they can run, they can kick, they can play defense, and they're not too shabby at their kicking game. But there's one thing they cannot do. One thing that they cannot do, even as a Super Bowl champ, they cannot bet on football. They cannot play football and then bet on who's going to win. They can, they're going to get kicked out of the league. That makes no sense. They could fall down, they could miss a pass on purpose. There are all kinds of things they can do. That's wrong. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate very much the opportunity to be just a tiny voice in what's going on, because this is right and not doing it is wrong. I yield back.
Well, I thank the gentleman. You know, I come from New England, where we also know something about winning all the time. But we'll keep it in Missouri for now, and I'll yield 2 minutes to another gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Alford.
Well, thank you so much. I thank the gentleman from Rhode Island, and I am honored to follow my friend from Kansas City, Reverend Emmanuel Cleaver. Thank you, sir. Hey, I agree with you. This is a bipartisan issue. Today, I rise to introduce the Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments Act. My bill is complementary to Senator Josh Hawley over in the Senate. And look, if you travel the 4th District of the great state of Missouri, just south of Reverend Cleaver's district in Kansas City, and you ask the average person, Mr. Speaker, if members of Congress should be able to trade individual stocks, they'll say no. That is not good for our nation. It's not good for this body. It's not good for rebuilding trust in the U.S. House of Representatives or the U.S. Senate. You know, the reason we introduce this is because there has been widespread reports of suspicious transactions associated with public officials, and it raises a lot of concerns about what we're doing here in this great body. Look, if you want to run for the U.S. House of Representatives and you want to serve the people, Mr. Speaker, that's fine. If you want to trade stocks, then go to Wall Street. I'm the chair of the Oversight Committee for the Small Business Committee. I'm concerned about Main Street. I'm concerned about the 772,047 individuals that I represent. That's what we should be here about, not trying to get rich on trading stocks. And my bill is bicameral. It is bipartisan. As I said before, it's led in the Senate by Senator Josh Hawley. President Trump has announced that he will support this legislation. To make this law, he will sign it into law. Today, Speaker Johnson indicated his support for the underlying policy, and the members gathered here tonight to prove that this is a bipartisan mission, to right the ship, to get us back on the right track. This legislation has workable compliance deadlines. It allows trading in broad-based index and mutual funds and requires real enforcement. It has teeth with substantial penalties for violations. As public servants, we should hold ourselves to a higher standard, Mr. Speaker, and avoid the mere appearance of corruption and impropriety. Unfortunately, too many members of Congress are engaging in suspicious stock trades based on non-public information to enrich themselves. These gross violations of the public trust make it clear we must finally take action, take a stand to ban members and their spouses from owning or selling individual stocks. It's simple. Public service should never be a pathway to private wealth, especially when everyday Americans are struggling. This is about rebuilding trust in what we do. Congress works for the people, not to enrich our bank account. I am proud to join my colleagues tonight on the other side of the aisle. I tell you what, it's kind of refreshing to have something that we agree on. But we agree that America comes first, our constituents come first, and we as servant leaders should come last. So thank you, sir, for holding this special order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and with that, I yield back.
Thank you to the gentleman. I now yield to my friend from Pennsylvania, Mr. DeLuzio, for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the leadership from the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Magaziner, and from Texas, Mr. Roy, for bringing us together tonight. Imagine that. Some Democrats, Republicans in this chamber, in this town, want to do something about corruption. That's a good thing. I hope the American people are paying attention. And I will tell you, it is clear from conversations with my constituents of Western Pennsylvania, and I know from people all over this country, they think our system is rigged. Rigged against hardworking people, rigged for giant corporations and the rich and the powerful. That kind of corporate power, it doesn't just happen. It's enabled by pliable politicians, by a Supreme Court that opens the floodgates to unlimited super PAC money that corrupts our elections. And we should fight that. And you want to fight corruption? Yeah, let's start with getting that unlimited corporate money out of our politics. But you got to have some credibility. And this chamber, this town, this Congress needs more credibility. One way to build that back is to start with banning congressional stock trading. I think it's an easy place to start. You talk to people in Western PA, you talk to people all over this country, they think it's ridiculous that folks in power and elected office get rich off the inside and sensitive information that we learn in our jobs serving the people, representing the people who elect us. No one should be using that information to enrich themselves, to get rich off of a public trust. So I'm proud to be here in a bipartisan fashion, joining with members of both parties who support this common sense anti-corruption idea. Let's ban congressional stock trading. Wherever we see corruption, we should be calling it out. We should be fighting it. We should take it on. Our democracy turns on public trust, people having some faith in their elected representatives. And what we're railing against here, members trading stock based on information we learn, that erodes that public trust. Let's be smart. Let's come together. Let's call out this corruption for what it is. I again commend my colleagues from Rhode Island, Mr. Magaziner, and from Texas, Mr. Roy, for bringing us together to that end, and I yield back, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I'd now like to yield to the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Kim, for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of Congress are here to serve their constituents and the American people, not themselves. Unfortunately, we see this year after year with members of Congress making lucrative stock trades while their constituents struggle to make ends meet. We must restore public trust in this body, and that starts with each of us in this chamber. There is no reason why members of Congress should be able to trade stocks while in office, period. American taxpayers deserve better. That is why I'm proud to have helped introduce the Trust in Congress Act. This bipartisan bill would prohibit members of Congress, in addition to their spouses and children, to trade stocks while in office. This isn't rocket science. This is common sense. Let's just restore trust back in Congress. With that, I yield back.
Well, I thank you very much to Ms. Kim, and now I would like to yield 2 minutes to my friend from Minnesota, Ms. Omar.
Thanks to the gentleman from Rhode Island. Mr. Speaker, members of Congress should not be allowed to trade stock. This should be a no-brainer. Members of Congress should not be allowed to profit off of their service. When members are in a position of directly benefiting from the manipulation of the stock market and they profit off of their position, it is corruption, plain and simple. Just last month, numerous members and cabinet officials profited off of Donald Trump's tariff chaos announcement. This should not be acceptable. I know majority of Americans agree, nearly 90% support a ban. Every time a member cashes in, it undermines public trust. That's why I have always supported a ban for elected officials and their families, because exploiting inside information to enrich yourself should never be allowed. It is time we come together to stop this corruption and pass an immediate stock trading ban. Thank you.
Well, I thank you very much to the gentleman from Minnesota. I would now like to yield 2 minutes to a new member who has come in and already been making a mark, and I know is here with the intent of being a reformer, which is what we need in Congress. I'll yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from Arizona, Ms. Ansari.
Thank you, Congressman Magaziner. I rise today in support of long overdue legislative measures to prevent members of Congress from trading stock. The original Stock Act, passed in 2012, bars a member of Congress, the president, the vice president, and high-level staff from engaging in insider trading or otherwise using non-public information for their own benefit. The bill also included important updates to financial transparency by requiring these high-ranking government officials to quickly disclose financial transactions to the public. In fact, it is because of this bill's provision that we know that members of both parties are still consistently able to use non-public information to benefit their own stock portfolios. Incidents like these break our trust with the American people, with our constituents. That's why I'm so proud to co-sponsor Congressman Magaziner's Trust in Congress Act. This bill would require members of Congress and their immediate family members to divest from individual stock holdings or place them into a qualified blind trust during their entire tenure in Congress. In practice, it would ban members of Congress from trading stocks. This is just common sense. Members of Congress should be prohibited from using non-public information for our own benefit. Polling has shown that nearly 86% of Americans support barring members of Congress from trading stocks. So this should be easy. This should be bipartisan. The Trust in Congress Act and bills like it would prevent corruption and restore trust in Congress. Before I was sworn in to federal office, I made a personal effort to sell stocks that I had and to ensure that my financial future would not and could not be dependent on information that I might become privy to as a member of the House of Representatives. It's about more than following a set of rules. It's about acting ethically and respecting the power of the offices we hold. And in a time where the President of the United States is expected to accept a plane worth hundreds of millions of dollars from a foreign nation, respecting a moral code and setting a strong example could not be more important. I'm heartened to see my colleagues on both sides of the aisle standing in support of this issue. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you very much to Ms. Ansari. I would now like to yield to someone, but let me just preface this by saying, again, we've had a big couple of weeks in this fight to ban members of Congress from trading stocks because not only rank and file members, but leaders have been coming out in favor of this common sense reform. Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, today Speaker Johnson, President Trump, and a leader who has been out in front on this issue for a long time co-sponsor of the legislation that I've reintroduced to ban members of Congress from trading stocks, is our assistant Democratic leader, my friend from Colorado, Mr. Neguse, and I yield to him as much time as he may consume.
I thank the chair. First and foremost, let me thank my distinguished colleague from Rhode Island, whose clarion call on this issue, his demand to an end of corruption, an end to this outrageous practice of stock trading by members of Congress, has inspired many of his colleagues who have joined the coalition that he is building in real time. And I couldn't be more grateful to Representative Magaziner for his leadership and for championing this issue at such a critical time, and I'm grateful to be a partner with him in this effort. Our 26th president, Teddy Roosevelt, once said that no man who is corrupt, no man who tolerates corruption in others can do his duty by the community. That admonition rings true today. 4 years ago, I led an effort to ban stock trading by members of Congress, joined with colleagues on both sides of the aisle. For 4 years, we have tried to convince this chamber to ban members of Congress from trading stocks. Why? Because members of Congress should be serving their communities, their constituents, and their country, not their stock portfolios. In that 4-year span, 48 months, 1,400 days, how many millions of dollars have members of Congress in this body made from trading stocks? It's unconscionable. It's a practice that should have ended years ago. And we have continued to beat that drum month after month, week after week, day after day, and we will keep doing it until a majority in this body joins the rest of the American people, the public, in supporting a ban to this insidious practice. And I'm grateful to Representative Magaziner for continuing to beat that drum, leading the effort now over the last 2 years. It feels as though we're on the precipice, as Mr. Magaziner noted, of finally getting traction in this chamber to end this practice. But the one cautionary note I would offer, Mr. Speaker, is that in that 4-year span, as I mentioned, this journey, this battle that we have waged again, colleagues of mine on both sides of the aisle, to ban stock trading. I have heard virtually every excuse in the book from some of my colleagues. It's too complicated, there are competing bills, the legislative text is complex. This is very simple. Just ban it. Not 5 years from now, not next year. Let's just put a bill on the floor to ban it, period. Members of Congress will no longer be able to trade stocks. Simple as that. I hope, Mr. Speaker, that my colleagues will join me, join Mr. Magaziner, join the coalition that is organized around this issue so that we can finally get this done and end corruption here in Washington. And with that, Mr. Magaziner, I yield back.
Thank you very much. As we get ready to close here tonight, I want to thank my colleagues once again for their leadership on this issue and their courage, because, as was said earlier, the opponents of this stock trading ban, they don't speak out publicly, but they are here. And they are watching and they are listening, and they are probably not very happy with us tonight. And so it takes people of courage to be willing to stand up and say, we here in Congress have to change. We have to change the way Congress works so that we work for the American people and not for ourselves. We need to end this corruption. We need to end this insider dealing. We need to end congressional stock trading. And what you've seen tonight is that this is a bipartisan issue. We've had people speak tonight from across the political spectrum who had the courage to stand up for what is right and to stand up for what the American people not only want, but are demanding of us. And make no mistake, this insider trading is happening. It is happening. I've got the statistics right here. In 2024, the average member of Congress outperformed the market by nearly 3%. Now, I used to work in the investment business, and let me tell you, there are paid professionals who do not have that kind of outperformance. The year before that, the average member of Congress also outperformed the market, and the year before that, and the year before that. The last 4 years in a row, members of Congress who traded stocks outperformed the market. That is not a coincidence. One time, 1 year might be luck, but 2, 3, 4 years in a row is a clear pattern of corruption that needs to end. Members should not be allowed to trade off of inside information and should not be conflicted when deciding how to vote on a bill or whether to support a policy. The American people support this overwhelmingly, and it is time to get it done. Now listen, I'm feeling hopeful. Earlier this year, it was hard to get people to pay attention to this issue. It was hard to get media coverage. It was hard to get member support. But in the last month or so, things have started to change. Leader Jeffries supports it. Speaker Johnson supports it. President Trump supports it. People are starting to notice. We are building momentum. And I want to end tonight with gratitude for those who started this journey before I ever got to Congress. Former members like Abigail Spanberger, Ken Buck, who have pushed for this for years. We are now building off of their work. And those of us who have various versions of a stock trading bill, I've got the Trust in Congress Act that I've been leading with Mr. Roy. We've got a few other members who've introduced their own versions. We are now working together to develop a consensus bill that we can all get behind and push together, and we are getting close. So the excuses for inaction are running out fast. The excuses for inaction are running out. The American people want this. It's the right thing to do. Let's get it done. Once again, thank you to my colleagues from both sides who have had the courage to stand up tonight in support of a stock trading ban. The time is now. Let's get it done. And with that, I'll yield back.
The gentleman yields back.